Acharya ji Pranam. After explaining to Arjun that he shouldn't grieve for the embodied beings, in verse 31 of the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna says, even considering your own duty, you should not waver, since there is nothing else better for a Kshatriya than a righteous battle. Acharyaji, being born into a Kshatriya clan, fighting represents Arjun's conditioning and training and what he has become good at. Is there any role of conditioning in discovering one's duty or one's swadharm? Is adhering to one's swadharm same as liberation? The verse says, 2.31, even considering your own duty, you should not waver from the fight, in brackets, since there is nothing else better for a Kshatriya than a righteous battle. You see, liberation is dharma. To move to the point where one stands liberated alone is dharma. But when we define dharma this way, then we are talking of only one point, the point to which you have to reach. Right? We are calling that as the point of liberation. But nobody stands at a position called no position. We all stand somewhere, and wherever we stand, that point is actually a point of conditioning. That point is actually a point of conditioning. Had we not been standing somewhere, there was no need to travel to be liberated. You could consider the point of liberation as the origin, 0, 0. Basic XY coordinates. Thinking of a graph, right? Graph paper, can you see that? So liberation is at 0, 0, origin. You have to go back to the very origin where everything comes from. But where are you currently located? You are located somewhere. You have some coordinates, x, y. Or if you take 3 dimensions, then x, y, z. How many various kinds of coordinates are possible? Infinite. The x, y, z combo can take infinite values. Infinite distinct values. Correct? Wherever you are currently located, from there you have to come to the origin. So, coming to the origin is dharma. But swadharm is coming to the origin from where you are. Therefore, each person, each XYZ will have his own particular path to come to the origin. And that's why it is called swadharm, not just dharma. Swadharm means your dharma. Swadharm is not really different from dharma. But dharma merely says, come to the origin. Dharma says, come to origin, become 0. Come to the point where everything is dissolved, nothing exists. Come to 0. Dharma merely says that. Swadharma clarifies things a little more. Swadharma says, yes, you have to come to 0, but you have to come from 4, 5, 8, XYZ. So now things stand more cleared. So from 4, 5, 8, you have to come to 0, and now you can find out a route. Obviously, the shortest route is the straight line. But maybe the configurations, the situations stand in such a way that a straight line is not even possible, so you figure out some other route, whatever it is. The thing is, now you know that you have to move from 458 to 000. Arjun too stands somewhere. Had Arjun not been standing somewhere, then Arjun would have been standing at 000. Then there would have been no need for any Krishna or any Gita. Arjun is already at the origin. But Arjun is standing somewhere. Where is Arjun standing? Arjun is standing where his body and the norms and situations and the customs and the conditioning of his time has made him stand. So Arjun is standing at some particular place. Krishna has to take that particular place into account. Otherwise, he would just be talking theory that would not be of much use to Arjun. So Krishna not merely talks of liberation. Krishna not merely talks of freedom. He also keeps referring to Arjun's Kshatriya clan. Because if you are really interested in covering a distance, you must know both the ends. Krishna must talk of the origin, 000, and Krishna must also equally seriously talk of 458, which is Arjun's configuration at that point, Arjun's coordinates. That's why he repeatedly refers to Arjun's Kshatriya caste. Now, let's say Krishna is talking to somebody belonging to the other Varnas. He would be advising everybody, irrespective of whether he is a Kshatriya or a Vaishya or a Brahman or a Shudra, to go to 000. But all would be advised to go to 000 starting from where they actually and practically are situated. If you are standing at 458, you cannot be told the same route that was told to someone who was standing at 2311. If that route is suggested to you, will you ever reach 000? You will fail, totally fail. So now when he is talking to Arjun, he is saying, you see, over the passage of time, in the game of Prakriti, in the entire play of Maya, you have become a Kshatriya. Now all that is just a superficial thing. The entire Varna system has no depth. It is just a superficial arrangement made by man himself. But whatever it is, the thing is that it is taken as an identity statement by somebody like Arjun. In fact, by all who were present at that time. They take their Varna identity as important. So now, since they take it as important, so Krishna tells them that according to your Varna identity, which is according to your present coordinates, this is how you should move to 000. You have to fight. If a Brahmin is there on the same battlefield, Krishna would advise him to resist the Kauravas, but in some way that is most suited to the Brahmin's own conditioning. If he tells the Brahmin to pick up the bow and the arrow or the mace and start fighting Duryodhan, then the war is lost already. So the Brahmin will have to fight Duryodhan, no doubt, but in the way of the Brahmin. The Vaishya and the Shudra too will have to fight Duryodhan in their own respective ways. Are you getting it? What is important is, when you reach 000, then the Kshatriya is no more a Kshatriya. He comes to learn that all this Varna and caste thing is some kind of a man-made joke. But when will he learn that? Standing at 248? Standing at 248, he is taking his caste very seriously. He says, I am a Kshatriya. When will he be able to doubtlessly and convincingly say, I am not a Kshatriya, I am not even a body, how can I be a Kshatriya? When will he be able to say that? Only when he reaches 000. But to reach 000, he has to start from being a Kshatriya. So even to come to the point where Arjuna is no more a Kshatriya, he has to start from a point where he is indeed a Kshatriya. In a way, Krishna is using the Varna of Arjuna to bring him to a point where he is liberated from the Varna system altogether. But even to liberate him of his class or caste or conditioning, he has to start from where he actually and practically is standing right now. So Krishna is doing something very wise and very practical at the same time. Are you getting it? When you come to that origin point, there is no difference between a Brahmin, a Vaishya, a Shudra, a Kshatriya, anybody. There is no difference between a man and a woman. There is no difference at all. Differences cease to exist. But in this world that we see all around us, first of all, there are physical differences of age, of gender, of race. And then there are social differences. Caste, creed, ethnicity, nationality, religion. We live in a world of differences. Even to bring someone to a point where he would be liberated of differences, you have to see what his current configuration is. If you are not mindful of his current configuration, then your attempts to help him will fail. And Krishna is not someone who is going to fail. So he repeatedly reminds Arjuna that he is a Kshatriya. His identity is repeatedly evoked. Arjuna, you are a Kshatriya, and the Kshatriya must fight. Now, both the things are at play here, dharma and swadharm. In what does dharma lie? Dharma lies in fighting Duryodhan. In what does swadharm lie? Swadharm lies in fighting Duryodhan like a Kshatriya. Let's say if a Brahmin were present on the battlefield, dharma would remain the same for Arjuna and that Brahmin. Dharma is to fight Duryodhan because Duryodhan is representing adharma. So dharma is to fight Duryodhan. But swadharma will be different. Arjuna's swadharma will be to fight Duryodhan like a warrior. And the Brahmin's swadharma will be to fight Duryodhan like a scholar. So dharma is the same for everybody. But swadharma varies according to the kind of personality you have taken. According to your physical, social, temporal conditions. Swadharma varies. But remember that swadharma can never be in contradiction of dharma. Swadharma will always be something within the ambit of dharma. So dharma is fight Duryodhan. Swadharma is fight Duryodhan with bows and arrows. Why with bows and arrows? Because Arjuna, that's all that you can do. What else will you do? Over the last 45 years, Arjuna, if there is one thing that you have learned, and there is only one thing that you have learned, which is to fight. There is only one thing you have continuously practiced, which is your bow and arrow. So now that you have to fight Duryodhan, what other method or weapon do you have? You have only one excellence. There is only one thing that you know. There is only one way in which you can fight Duryodhan, which is your Kshatriya way, because there is no other way that you know. So fight Duryodhan in your own way, that is swadharma. Fighting Duryodhan is dharma. Fight Duryodhan in the way you can, that is swadharma. You get it clearly? Acharya Pranam. In verse 34 of the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna says to Arjun, people also will speak of your unending infamy, and to an honored person, infamy is worse than death. Then the questioner has quoted the Ramcharitmanas. At the time of King Dasharath's death, Guru Vasishtha says, loss, profit, life, death, glory, infamy, all in the hands of destiny. Hanilabh, Jivan, Maran, Yash, Apayash, Vidyate. Acharya, the two contexts are different. In the first, a warrior is being urged to act, and the second is on the occasion of the death of a king. But it makes me wonder about the connection of infamy with one's actions. Does a righteous action need to be influenced by how the world will perceive of it? Also, when Krishna is urging Arjun to remain equanimous in pleasure and pain, in life and death, then why does he ask Arjun to consider infamy as worse than death, when such a consideration might disturb his equanimity? The shlok reads, people will also speak of your unending infamy, and to an honored person, infamy is worse than death. So first of all, what is Sri Krishna doing? I suppose we have already answered it in the previous question. On that battlefield, the forces of darkness have to be fought. That is dharma. If Duryodhan occupies power, that is not going to be good for Hastinapur and the adjoining states, probably the entire, the larger part of the entire subcontinent. At least all the states who would come within the influence of Duryodhan's power will have to suffer. Duryodhan has repeatedly displayed his proclivity towards injustice, corruption, fame, lustfulness, treachery, many kinds of evil. He is not at all an eligible candidate to occupy the throne. And that is the reason Sri Krishna is siding with the Pandavas. It is not about ensuring that one party gets its rightful claim on the throne. The issue is wider. It is about entire populations. Remember that the Mahabharata was not in an age of democracy. The king used to have almost unlimited authority. He was supposed to be a representative of God, and all that he did or said had to be respected, obeyed. In such situations, the personal disposition of the king towards dharma, towards justice, was very critical in determining the welfare or the disaster of an entire population. Give the population the right kind of king, and you have one kind of result. And give the population an evil king, and you have a totally different and disastrous result. So the question of who will be the king was a very, very crucial question in determining the very fate of Bharat. Therefore, sides had to be taken. Therefore, Krishna had to really stand with and behind the Pandavas to ensure that they win. You're getting it? Therein lay dharma. Fight Duryodhan. He is the mascot of evil right now. But who is to fight Duryodhan? Arjun. And who is Arjun? Is Arjun a liberated person? No. Arjun is very much a product of his times. Arjun is someone who believes in his varna, his caste identity very strongly. Arjun is someone who is quite strongly attached to his family members. Familial bonds matter a lot to him. The Gita opens with the sight of Arjun shivering and trembling and feverish and refusing to pick up the Gandiv because he cannot. He says he has not enough power in his hands at the moment to even pick up his weapons. That's his state. Does this look like the state of some perfect person? No. Not at all. Over his entire lifetime, Arjun had displayed normal human tendencies. Obviously, he was a good human being. He had to be. He had befriended Krishna. He tolerated a lot. He was often seen fighting for the right cause, defending the right kind of people. But still, he was more or less an ordinary mortal. Now, such an ordinary mortal, let's say a little better than ordinary, such a person is to be roped in to fight against Duryodhan. Merely telling him that fighting Duryodhan is important for the welfare of entire North India would be no good. Those kinds of dharmic invocations will not matter too much to Arjun. Arjun is riled in his own inner battles, attachments, old memories, bonds of blood, such things. If Krishna were to just tell him, Arjun, fighting Duryodhan and killing him is important to uphold dharma, Arjun would not fight. Arjun is not Krishna. Arjun is not perfect. Family matters are very significant to Arjun. He cannot forget the insult meted out to Draupadi. He cannot forget that once he used to play in the lap of Bhishma. These kinds of things, they are what are important and material to Arjun. How do you just tell Arjun, Arjun, get up and fight? We are crusading for dharma, no less. Arjun would not budge. So, knowing fully well what kind of a person Arjun is, Krishna is telling those things to Arjun that matter to him. What matters to him? One of the things that matter to him is fame. So Krishna tells him, you run away from the battle and you will be earning a lot of infamy. Now that matters to Arjun. That's true. I cannot run away. I'll be dishonored. Fine. Tell Arjun that if you run away, it would be the defeat of dharma, and such an argument will fall flat. Tell Arjun, if you run away, it will be your personal dishonor, and this argument will work. Because Arjun is Arjun, a normal mortal being. Are you getting it? That, however, does not mean that fame is in reality something very important. That does not mean that fame has some kind of an absolute significance in spirituality. No, not at all. In fact, look at the danger. Krishna is using Arjun's predisposition towards fame to make him fight a war. It's just that the person who is right now advising Arjun is Krishna. So he will use Arjun's weakness to guide Arjun towards a right thing. But what if it were not Krishna but somebody else? And that somebody else knew very well that Arjun has a very high consideration for fame. Then he could say to Arjun, Arjun, you lose your fame if you fight against your brothers and uncles and teachers and grandfathers. You lose your fame. And Arjun, fame conscious as he is, would be then fooled into quitting the battle because of the fame issue. Are you getting it? It's just that right now Arjun is luckily in the hands of Krishna. Luckily in the hands of Krishna. So Krishna, even though he is using Arjun's weakness, he is using Arjun's weakness for a right cause. But what if, by way of chance, Arjun were to fall in the hands of somebody like Shakuni? Then Shakuni would capitalize all of Arjun's weakness to turn Arjun against dharma. So you must understand that it is not at all right to harbor any such weaknesses. And having a soft spot for fame, being very, very desirous for name and honor is a big weakness. Arjun just somehow luckily is getting away with it. Not everybody is going to be so lucky. Your hunger for fame will be used by the forces of mischief to turn you to all the wrong directions. Is that clear? So don't wait for that to happen. You will not always be so lucky or so very discreet that your companion would be a Krishna. More often than not, your companions will be of the mischievous and unworthy kind. And they will use all your frailties, all your weaknesses against you and against dharma. Don't let that happen. Get rid of your weaknesses before they are exploited by cunning people. Getting it? Then, the first part of the question. The connection of infamy with one's actions. The questioner is asking, does a righteous connection need to be, does a righteous action need to be influenced by how the world will perceive it? You see, it does not need to be, but that's the way we are. We are so thoroughly influenced by the world. So, while we are deciding about anything, whether or not to do it, the factor of honor, of fame, of perception, of social regard always somehow seeps into the equation. And many a times the question of fame and honor very strongly disbalances the equation. Your decision totally changes. You might be making the right decision, but the factor of infamy starts weighing upon your mind, and then you flip. The decision changes. Getting it? The one who gives the opinions of others a lot of weightage will obviously not be able to give the highest weightage to truth. Therefore, if you are really someone who aspires to live truthfully, you are someone who does not want to live blindly, semi-conscious, then you have to be someone who has a healthy disregard towards the opinions of others. That does not mean that you must not hear others out or consult others. Rather, that means that even when you are listening to someone, your objective is not to gain something in the eyes of that person. Your objective is to gain the truth. Are you getting it? You could be listening to your neighbor for two reasons. One, if you listen to your neighbor will feel happy. If you listen to your neighbor will start thinking good things about you. That could be one reason. The other reason is you are listening to uncover the truth. And to uncover the truth, you are prepared to listen to anybody. But only to uncover the truth. Otherwise, people have no value. And it's a very strong condition. Let people have value in your life only in context of the truth they bring to your life. Otherwise, what is the value of a body? Nothing. If there is someone who really brings truth to your life, he is someone to be listened to. Heed his advice. And if there are people who are very full of their opinions and they are very desirous of advising you, but their advice brings no truth to your life, there is no need to waste your time listening to them. Getting it? Hmm? So do interact with others. Do take feedback from others. Do hear people out. Do engage in meaningful conversations. But the objective has to be very clear. The objective must always be truth. Not the aggrandization of your ego, not the gratification of the other's ego. No petty objective should be there. Clear?